Peace will fill the world when we finally understand that only from within can it be spread throughout the land. Every single person living peace in what we do, only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.
Good morning, friends. I'm Leona Evans, minister at Unity of San Luis Obispo, an inclusive, progressive, spiritual community affirming the good in all life. Welcome to our Sunday morning live stream. It's wonderful to be here. I'm really excited about my lesson today and about the wonderful music that you're going to be listening to. And so let's get ready to enjoy this hour with one another, to remember that our goal is to awaken to our spiritual potential. And for this, we need to be fully present. So let's relax. Take a deep breath. Begin the process of consciously breathing deeply. Feel your muscles relaxing as you become more comfortable, especially in your neck and shoulders. Find a comfortable spot and let us give thanks for this wonderful, joyous, inspirational, informative time that we are going to share this morning. Take another deep breath and relax, and let us affirm our invocation together. I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. Once again, I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. And so it is. Amen. Let us begin our service as always with a special joy song performed by Matthew J. Evans.
Good morning. Today we're going to sing House on a Rock by Janet Manning. Please sing along with the lyrics on the bottom of the screen. I built my house on a rock, it's got a firm foundation, and I've got a principle within. I built my house on a rock, and it's a sweet sensation, knowing I'm free to love the world that I'm in. And I get up every morning with a song in my soul. I'm a child of God, therefore I'm well and whole. I built my house on a rock, it's got a firm foundation, and I've got a principle within. I built my house on a rock, it's got a firm foundation, and I know the truth that sets me free. I built my house on a rock, and it's a jubilation, knowing I'm meant to live so joyously. And I go out every morning with a spring in my step, doing what I ought to do with zeal and pep. I built my house on a rock, it's got a firm foundation, and I know the truth that sets me free. I built my house on a rock, it's got a firm foundation, and I see the good in everything. I built my house on a rock, and I'm a new creation, loving my winters 'cause they're followed by spring. And I look out every morning on the world and I say, all the life I've yet to live begins today. I built my house on a rock, it's got a firm foundation, and I've got a principle within. And I know the truth that sets me free, and I've got a principle within. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matthew. That was just lovely. I love those lyrics by Janet Manning. I built my house on a rock. It's got a firm foundation, and I've got a principle within. And I know the truth that sets me free. So exciting. A wonderful, wonderful affirmation to repeat during the day. And so I want to talk about an affirmation that I use quite often. And I want to sort of explain the nature of that affirmation, how it's not just easy to say, and it doesn't just flow out of the tongue, and it's not just clever, but it is profound. And so this is the beginning of a series of talks about our divine nature and how to cultivate it by the way we believe. Let's begin by talking about one of the great spiritual teachers of the 20th century. His name was Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a French philosopher, a paleontologist, and a Jesuit priest. He was also a mystic who wrote beautifully about humanity's relationship to spirit. And so this is my favorite quote of his, which I say all the time. And it really is foundational to my entire ministry. It is this: we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Again, I say it often. We hear it often, and the moment we hear it, we think, wow, that's good, that's important, and pretty much we go on with the rest of our day. But I believe that this is a profound statement, and one that requires a great deal of inner contemplation and meditation. In fact, the assertion that we're inherently spiritual is pretty much the opposite of the way we live our lives. Instead of understanding that we're spiritual by nature, most of us are convinced that we're too human and need to rid ourselves of our negative emotions so that we can become spiritual, which we usually define as a calm, stress-free state of mind. Never too loud, always just shy of being too soft. And when we see people that seem to have a benevolent smile all the time and they never raise their voice and they never react to negative situations, we say to ourselves, wow, that's a spiritual being. And so I'd like to delve into this idea more deeply today. I mean, not that that is not a spiritual being, because we're all spiritual beings. But when we delve more deeply into the idea of this statement, it's designed to help us understand how important seeing ourselves as inherently spiritual is to our peace of mind, to our growth as individuals, and to our ability to actually accept ourselves and know that we are enough just the way we are, and that we are loved unconditionally by the living Spirit of truth. So, let's begin by talking about the human condition. Now, the purpose of discussing the human condition is to gain clarity and awareness about where we are as a collective consciousness at this particular time in history. As we understand more about the human condition, we become more able to move to what is possible for humanity, what is our potential. And once we see what the future can hold for us, we can then talk about the way in which we can move from the old paradigm to the new. So we are going to talk about the human condition, the possibility for humankind, and the way that that possibility can be realized. And so we're going to discuss this quote about being spiritual beings having a human experience in relation to the human condition where we are right now. The possibility of what we're capable of becoming and the way in which this shift in consciousness can take place. So, let's begin by realizing that, generally speaking, it never occurs to most of us that we are spiritual beings, because there is so much information collected in the collective consciousness of the universe. And part of that collective consciousness, and part of what most of us have been taught, is that spirituality is something separate from earthly existence. Most traditional theologies tell us that spirituality is something otherworldly, which we have to strive for in order to have a relationship with God. Now, even those of us who have rejected the idea that we're born in sin still believe that we're far from being spiritual beings. In fact, we believe that we know all about what it is to be human, and well, it's not always to our liking. We think we're too human and not spiritual enough. So let's look back at our socialization process as young children. We are told very clearly about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable behavior. Usually we're told in terms of the words right and wrong. Now, very often, because we're so young, those lessons need to be learned again and again. And our parents and caregivers, really concerned about our well-being, frequently can get impatient when we don't learn quickly enough. Now, the other term that we are used to hearing when we are very young, and it carries over to our adult life, are the terms good and bad. This is what a good girl or boy does. You want to be a good girl or boy, don't you? This is bad. This is bad behavior, or this is being a bad boy or girl. And so, because we're in a learning and growing process that naturally contains making mistakes, instead of realizing that, which is a pretty mature concept, as children, we start feeling bad about ourselves because we're not pleasing those around us. People get very excited. No, don't do this. No, don't do that. No, that was a good boy. That was a good girl. No, that wasn't. And so just trying to learn how to stop at a street corner, or to not put our hand on the burner on the stove, we make lots of mistakes, and we experience anger and frustration as part of the learning process, because it seems that we can seldom get it right or be free from criticism. And pretty soon, as we grow older, we become afraid to make mistakes. We become insecure, and we start making excuses, and, well, eventually we begin lying to our parents and teachers to avoid feeling embarrassed or humiliated. And, of course, that's where the famous phrase, "the dog ate my homework," came from. We will do anything to not be wrong. We will do anything to be loved and be acceptable. And so many of us are taught to believe that our worth is judged by what we do. And the older we get, the fewer mistakes we should be making. Well, unfortunately, a traditional religious upbringing reinforces the fact that there's something inherently wrong with us, and that the only way to be lifted from this burden of sin is to be saved. And so, whether we realize it or not, this belief is very strong in our human consciousness, even if we've never had a religious upbringing. The part that says we are flawed and we have to work extra hard to be good, and we have to work extra, extra hard to be spiritual. Well, we'll talk more about this and the powerful ways we can let go of these old beliefs after we hear some beautiful music from Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans.
Here's a wonderful little ditty from Joe Raposo. It was the theme to the great TV show Sesame Street. It was also a big hit for the Carpenters. Copyright 1971. A one, a two, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Sing a song, sing it loud, sing it long, sing of good things, not bad, sing of happy, not sad, sing a song. Make it simple and last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. Sing a song, let the world sing along. Sing the love there can be. Sing for you and for me. Sing, just sing a song. Make it simple, last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Sing a song. Sing the love there can be. Sing, let laughter ring free. Sing, sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Sing a song. La 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 la. Sing to be happy, make it snappy. When you sing, sing it strong. Just sing. Sing your song. Sing your song. It'll make the whole world feel better. Right, Matthew?
That's right, man. Music is such a healing thing. Brings so much light to everything.
This boy, he knows what he's talking about too.
Thank you so much, Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans. What a lovely song, and you sang it with great joy. You guys have so much fun together, and that fun and that joy resonates to us. And so we always feel very, very blessed to hear your music and the very different ways you interpret it. Thank you so much. Well, we are talking about what I consider to be one of the most, if not the most, important affirmations in all of our teachings. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, great mystic, teacher, paleontologist, Catholic priest of the 20th century, said this: "We are not human beings trying to have a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings learning how to have a human experience." That phrase and the play on words is profound. The question is, how are we internalizing it? How do we really understand ourselves as spiritual beings when we are being taught for years and years, no matter what culture we grow up in, that we are inherently sinful or bad by nature, and that unless we're good, then we won't be loved by God or by our parents or teachers or people who really matter to us. We grow up with the mistaken belief that we're not enough, and especially not good enough. And so with these teachings, with our growing frustration as we begin to get older about being criticized all the time and making mistakes all the time and being regarded as less than, we grow up and not only with a lot of anger that we're afraid to express, but we develop coping mechanisms that help us avoid exposing our dark side. Well, at least we think we do. We think we have coping mechanisms. Unfortunately, the more we try to keep our dark side at bay, the more other people recognize that we're not necessarily relaxed in being our authentic selves. We make a concerted effort to be as friendly and loving as we can. We try to always be there for our friends and family. We make a concerted effort to give the impression that we're good people. And in fact, we often try so hard to be good that when we do make the inevitable mistake and are called on it, we become anxious. We start making excuses and wanting to convince others that we either didn't do it or that we didn't mean to do it. We're so afraid that we'll be seen in a negative light that we become defensive and often blow the situation completely out of proportion. And after that, we end up feeling even more inadequate and more desperate to do things right. So, what do we do about a shadow that lives within us that we feed by believing that the things we want to disown are things that we don't need or shouldn't be a part of us or are not spiritual? Well, over the past 30 years, progressive psychology has given us a great insight on these issues. See, even before that time, Carl Jung, who was a very spiritual psychologist, spoke of the struggle humanity faces by being unwilling to bring the shadow into the light. And he said that it was only through self-knowledge, self-awareness, that we can find greater strength and power to experience our wholeness. Now, those of us in New Thought are faced with a specific set of challenges in relation to these psychological insights because even though we teach wholeness, and oneness, we continue to view spirituality as something separate from our human experiences. Our teachings tell us to not dwell on the negative because of the power of our mind to manifest what we give our greatest attention to. So we ask, how can I deal with my dark side without becoming immersed in pain and negativity? How can I become involved in world affairs without becoming overwhelmed with anxiety? How can I create a life for myself that is positive and life-affirming without having to experience the dark side? Well, the answer is we can't. Really. Unless we feel strong enough to embrace a deeper reality and embrace the gold in our shadow, we'll continue to feel conflicted, anxious. We feel overwhelmed and depressed without really understanding why. And these constant, unexpressed feelings that we don't understand and we try so hard to run away from, we feel the need to escape this pain in various ways, which are usually unhealthy and addictive. This takes a toll not only on our relationship with ourselves, but with others and with our higher power. So anxious are we to escape and ignore our dark side in order to be lovable and loved and good enough. This is the human condition. We're convinced that spirituality is an otherworldly state of mind which we have to strive to attain, and that our biggest obstacle lies in the fact that we're too human. The reality is that in truth we are spiritual by nature. And the process of accepting our spirituality is not in diminishing our humanity, but by learning to embrace it in its entirety, flaws and all. So how do we make a paradigm shift? How do we go from feeling ashamed of our behavior and lacking in spirituality to recognize that we truly are spiritual beings learning to have a human experience? Well, in a number of ways, I see those of us in New Thought making concerted efforts to embrace the psychology of bringing our shadow into the light through therapy and various kind of support groups designed to help us recognize our inherent value in spite of our flaws. I also see great value in certain frameworks such as the Enneagram and the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator and others like that, which do a great job helping us understand and accept that it's part of our human nature to have both flaws and virtues. But clearly, this concept of wholeness is a lot easier to grasp intellectually than it is to integrate at a soul level. For example, I have been working with these ideas for years, working with the great teachers, the great mystics, and their understanding of accepting ourselves unconditionally. I know these teachings, I understand them, and can teach them. But I still have a problem when it comes to genuine self-acceptance. I'm very conscious of my problems with accepting my own flaws, which still cause me to feel shame because I still haven't worked through them, and I have the erroneous belief that I should be better. Now, I am convinced that's something we can all relate to. The idea of shoulding on ourselves is a very interesting way of sharing with our students that should does not really belong in the idea of self-acceptance. We should be better. Why? What exactly does that mean? Well, I don't know exactly what it means, I say to myself, but I really thought I should have known how to handle that, and I'm ashamed of myself, and I feel like I let people down. Enough. Should is something that we can pay attention to when we start shoulding on ourselves and realize that we are no longer going to be imprisoned by those beliefs that say I should be better. So here's the key to the transformation process. Once we truly understand the problem, the human condition as it is, and once we accept the challenge to work through it, we can begin moving through the process of shifting our old paradigm by becoming aware of which of our old beliefs need to be shifted to a greater reality. So, first, we accept the fact that we have approached the nature of spirit and our own nature from a limited perspective. We need to realize that instead of being sinful human beings who have to rid ourselves of our flaws before becoming spiritual, we need to grasp the reality that we are spiritual beings created by the one presence and one power of unconditional love, life, and wisdom. Now, in this greater view, spirituality is not confined to soft-spoken individuals and passive behavior. Spirituality is a dynamic description of who we are by nature. Spirituality is an identity, not a series of behaviors. Spirituality is the nature of all life. Spirituality includes evolution, moving to greater complexity and greater awareness through growth, including trial and error. Spirituality includes seeing our connection with all living things and our ability to recognize our individuality and potential for wholeness. Spirituality is a process of embracing our humanity and learning to live in two worlds, the worlds of visible and invisible energy, which we call God. Spirituality is our awareness of the responsibilities we have to one another as well as to ourselves to express our gifts and attributes and contribute to unlimited opportunities to experience life in all its many dimensions. Spirituality is seen in our ability to make choices and experience new beginnings. Spirituality is our ability to recognize the Spirit of God in the tragedies as well as in the triumphs. And when we say we are spiritual beings learning to have a human experience, we open ourselves to living life to the fullest, being our authentic selves, and genuinely accepting all facets of our nature, both human and divine. That is the greater reality. And until we accept that greater reality, we will live in a narrow world of good and bad, right and wrong, sinner and saint, We will not feel the unity of all life. We will not understand our divine nature. We'll think of spirituality as a behavior. We will think that rising with angels' wings is the definitive understanding of spirituality. It's not. Not from a New Thought standpoint, not from a mystical standpoint. Does this mean that we will come to enjoy making mistakes or doing things that we wish we hadn't done? Of course not. We're not expected to be happy in not fulfilling our goals. But what we do need to remember is to not go to the old place where we say, see, I proved that I wasn't good enough. See, I knew I couldn't do it. That's the old paradigm. The new paradigm says, I made a mistake. Whomever was involved and has to take the consequences along with me, I'm genuinely sorry. I will review this mistake and do everything I can to not make it again and to pursue a new track when endeavoring to accomplish this task. And most importantly, I will give thanks because I was able to learn something from this. So please accept my apology and please understand that we are still all lovable. We are still loved. We are still spiritual beings. We are always good enough, regardless of how we experience our evolution. It's just like the scientist or the chemist or the inventor trying so many different ways that don't work without losing our hope, without losing our identity. Always remember, we have what it takes to do what it is that we endeavor to do. The passion we feel in our hearts to accomplish being lovable enough should be off the table. That desire comes from a limited belief. It comes from our ego. It comes from a type of perfectionism that doesn't belong in the bigger picture. We need to first and foremost release any and all beliefs that affirm that we are not good enough or not spiritual enough, and that making mistakes only belongs to people who don't have what it takes. Poppycock. Balderdash. Making mistakes is part of the hero's journey, is part of a brave soul going out into the world, regardless of whether or not we have enough experience to do that, and making an effort to be all that we were created to be. We are always enough. We are always enough. Breathe deeply and relax now as we move into our time of inner contemplation and integration of today's message. Let us speak the words of these affirmations deeply in our soul. I am a spiritual being. I am whole and complete in every way. I am on a journey of self-discovery to bring the gifts within me into manifestation, to learn, to teach, to connect with all life, because I am on a journey that is infinite. I'm always learning something that I didn't know consciously. And in that process, I might not always accomplish things in an excellent or timely way. That is to be understood and accepted. This is one way that we learn and grow. I do not feel shame or blame. Rather, I am grateful to learn. And on my travels, I remember that wherever I go in consciousness, I am always in the presence of pure love and acceptance. And so it is. Amen. Let's take a moment to bless the tithes and offerings that we would share with Unity of San Luis Obispo. We affirm that Unity of San Luis Obispo is a blessed spiritual community expanding virtually to all over the world. And we give thanks that we are mighty to accept our good and share our good with others. Remember also that as you give, so shall you receive. And if you've received any benefit from this morning's service, please share your tithes with us, and you will receive spiritual inspiration 30, 60, 100 times over, in accordance with the divine law of reciprocity. And so let us affirm our prosperity statement together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive.
Here is one of Michel Legrand's early songs from 1971's Brian's Song, a made-for-TV movie about Brian Piccolo and Gail Sayers. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. inspiring song from Michelle Legrand.
Brett and Matthew, that was just beautiful. A very powerful and inspiring song about love and overcoming. And you did it beautifully from your heart and with the beauty of your soul and your skill. Thank you so much. Let's sing our peace song, shall we?
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now let's speak the words of our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Friends, please remember to press the like button and to share your comments with us. We love to hear from you. We also invite you to listen to our Get Off Your Affirmation podcast. Share the messages that are most meaningful to you with your friends. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Have a wonderful week. You deserve it.
Every single person living peace in what we do. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.